Today we're going to be delving into the complexities of the pulse as outlined by the Dr. Vigyan. And in his video courses he explains the last level of the pulse is the Dhatu pulse. Dhatu means roughly tissue. It also is the connective substance, and whenever we detect the particular doshas, the particular gunas of the dhatu, we're able to determine its state of existence, and whenever that state is in excellence, we can assume that it has been well nourished and that its associated agni is therefore in balance and in full operation. Dr. Manohar outlines a very simple technique in order to delve into the Dhatu pulse, and it's similar to the surface level as well as the deep, as well as the subdosha level. The distinction here is the subtle placement of the fingers. Rather than going in a perpendicular, as we do with the surface, so typically we go with even pressure, perpendicular directly down. This time, instead of going perpendicular directly down, we're going to slightly curve the fingers in. And this is going to be drawing the sensation into the tip of the finger rather than the plane of the fingertip. So it's practically where the nail bed is meeting the fingertip, and that's the angle that we are looking for. So first, we always are going to be reading the surface level pulse. In this surface level, it's going to be showing the manifest expressions of the current state of health of the individual. And so obviously it's very important to enlighten the consciousness with this surface level interpretation. So we take it from the surface level into the deep. The deep is done by gently blocking off the flow through that artery. We are pressing down and then just releasing the pressure so that we can feel the pulse again. That's going to be the third of the vein, and then we're going to release it, and we're going to come back into the surface level pulse. And in this surface level pulse this time, we're going to be paying attention to the subdosha rather than just noticing the overall qualities of the plane of the finger. We're going to pay attention now to the subsections of the finger, and we're going to break it down into those 15 subdoshas. And not that we're necessarily looking for anything ever, we're simply in this case observing what comes to the attention, innocently just watching what arises, and then notating that, and then also notating not only the location where the sensations arise, but also the gunas associated with those sensations. So the subdosha is going to be, again, at that surface level, first third of the pulse. Same technique with the fingers perpendicular to the vein. And then once we're done with the subdosha portion of reading the pulse, we then go to 2/3 depth, and this is going to be in the middle. And Dr. Manohar outlines again that this may seem, whenever we interpret it so much with mind rather than practice, this may seem complicated, but once you come into the practice, you begin to familiarize yourself with the pulse and the depth of the vein. And so reading the Dhatu pulse is going to come much more easily rather than with theory than the practical application. So then we read the 2/3 depth, the Dhatu pulse, and again we're searching for nothing. We are simply observing what is presented to the awareness, notating this either literally or mentally, and then later on, whenever we have the collective, we then begin to process and digest and interpret the information that was presented during the reading. But as we're reading, we're simply being present and allowing the information to come through. It's just as we're reading a book. We're not looking for anything in particular. We're allowing the information to flow through us innocently, and then we use that information later and we process it. So once we've gotten to 2/3 depth, this is the conclusion of the Dhatus portion. Then we want to conclude the pulse reading coming back to the surface. So again, we start with the surface, we end with the surface. We begin with Ojas, we end with Ojas. The journey of the tissue is always going to be coming and ending at the same point. And so also with our pulse reading, the journey begins and ends in the same point, right at the surface, right at the manifest. And then that, I think this also energetically transitions from this deep state of the dhatus, of the subdoshas. We come back into the surface, so it's an easier transition to pull the information as a practitioner as well. I hope this video was informational, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you so much for your time.